Good morning. I don't know who else is on the line for the show that we're going to hold for the next half hour for entrepreneurs to learn about preparedness and learn what is necessary for success in business. My name is Jerry Siegel. My company is JASB Management, Management Consulting, Management Training and Development. Is anybody else on the line at this point in time? Hearing that nobody's there, I will wait until somebody joins the call. Has anybody joined the call?
Hey, Jerry, it's Doreen Guma. How are you?
Okay, Doreen, you've joined the call. So I didn't need to do anything to get you on the call. I didn't think so.
No, actually, there's the unmute key, but that's okay.
Doreen, can you hear me?
Hi, Gina. How are you? Good morning.
Hi.
Hi,
Apparently,
Gina.
Jerry cannot hear. Oh, you can hear me now.
Jim is here,
yes,
too.
Hi, Jim.
Yes, there we go. I'm good. We're all live, I think.
Okay.
We're all live, but we have nobody else on the call.
All right. So, Jerry, this is not exactly a conference call, so I'm going to take over so we can just do this first one, and we'll get through the little growing pains. So, my name is Doreen Guma, and I am the founder of the Time to Play Foundation, and Jerry Siegel is one of our business advisory board members on the board of our foundation. The Time to Play Foundation is a 501c3 not-for-profit corporation with the mission and purpose to enrich the lives of others through programs, public awareness outreach activities, events, and learning opportunities that further the concept of enjoying life. And you can find a lot of information, articles, tips. It's a hub of resources at timetoplay.com. So please go and check that out. So just so I could explain a little bit for people that might not know what this exactly is, since this is our first one, this is actually a radio show. It's Internet-based. It's not a conference call. We do want a discussion so that people can learn what is best practices, and that's why Jerry is a tremendous resource for us here. My background is in quality improvement. And, Jerry, do you want to talk briefly about what your background is so people can understand that, you know, we're not playing around here. We got the best of the best to help give us tips and tools and proactive interventions that we can do so we can make our businesses better and our lives better. So go ahead, Jerry. Tell people what you
Thank you, Doreen. My business is very extensive in all aspects of business experience. Being a CPA by my first career and my second career, I ran a company as CEO of 125 people that back in 1986 was doing a volume of 14 million. I've been in management training since then, and now my focus is helping management learn skills of communication, delegation, goal setting, leadership, management, motivation, personal and organizational development, as well as time management. All the skills that are necessary to get better results for oneself and one's organization. And what we're here to talk about this afternoon, I'm sorry, Doreen, go ahead.
No, that's what I was going to say, and that's exactly why I asked you to head this endeavor up. And, you know, that because your background is such that anybody who is in business, wanting to start a business, would really benefit from your knowledge and expertise. And I really do thank you for that. We are on Long Island, but this is really something that is for anywhere. And my goal and, you know, founding platforms behind the foundation is people helping people, and collaboration equals success. And we are part, like Jerry is the founder of ODNLI, which is Organizational Development Network of Long Island. And we are both organizations, the Time to Play Foundation, ODNLI, are part of the Long Island Strategic Alliance Coalition, and also working with John Hill, who's created LIASB, which is, I believe, Long Island Alliance of Small Business, because you know what, that is something that I believe we have been taught competition instead of collaboration, and I think the more we do work together, the stronger and stronger we can be. So I know Gina Lalo, who is also a board member of our foundation, and she's also somebody that was very interested in doing this business growth and how to start a business, is online with us. But who is the other person that is online with us today? Jim?
Jim McGowan from Delphi was there.
Oh, hi, Jim. How are you?
Hi, how are you? It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. And Jim is actually also part of the LIASB. So except for our little rough start, it's all good. So we'll be more proficient next time. So Jerry, you want to start us off with what is our discussion this day? And Jim, who is on faculty at Adelphi, and Gina, who has been a business person for some years, as well as ourselves, myself, we can all kind of, give some things along the way.
Provide
for something. Yes, very good. So go ahead, Jeff.
Okay. Well, today we were talking about preparing, and my first question is, have you started with a business plan, a budget, and written goals? Because starting any organization without all three is really a recipe for immediate failure. So,
and how formal does that type of thing have to be, Jerry? And also Jim, and also Gina, if there's thoughts behind those points, that point. I've read a lot of different books where people say, something should be super, super formal. I've read other things like Lori Greiner from Shark Tank. I read her book, and she said, she kind of has it as a general guideline, but she kind of wings it. I don't want to say the word wings it, but, it's opportunity for change at any given point or time. What is your guys' thoughts behind that? How strict does that have to be? What type of a location or a place can we get those tools, that type of stuff?
Well, Doreen, we can use something as simple as what's called a one-page business plan, but it's essential that prior to beginning a business, if you intend to succeed, and certainly anyone that begins a business starts with that end in mind, it's necessary to lay out your mission, your vision, your purpose for the business, and where you plan to be in at least the first year, a year from the beginning, and how you're going to get there. And certainly that entails creating a budget to determine how you're going to spend the available funds that currently exist. The other item I added was written goals, because without goals designed, it is very difficult, if not impossible, to accomplish what you intend. And it is essential for creating success to have goals written, because writing crystallizes thought, and crystallized thought motivates action. And study after study has proved that the difference between writing goals and keeping them in our head is night and day. It's black and white. It's really cut and dry. So that's why I begin with that question, that if somebody is going to put the time, effort, and energy into beginning a business, they want to begin with the likelihood of success, and certainly starting and building a business is never easy. So that the more prepared they are to begin with, the more likely they are going to be to succeed. Any comments from any of those that are listening?
I would love to ask, Jerry, if you were to guide someone in the very, very beginning of the business startup, And speaking of goals and writing down your goals, what would you have them focus in on? Would it be more of your day-to-day goals? Would it be your long-term goals? A little bit of both? And how would they put that together, not really knowing where to begin? What would your suggestions be to them?
Well, it's a very good question, Gina. And really, what my suggestion would be is to start with the end in mind. As I said, using the 1 year as a guideline, determining where you want to be at the end of 1 year, bringing that back to today, and then determining a plan of action, a step-by-step approach as to how you're going to get there. So that the long-term plan in this case would be 1 year, and that would then involve detailing and writing short-term goals, which would first be a goal for month one, and the goal for month one can be broken down into weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4, and within the framework of each week, goals would be broken down into daily goals, which most people would typically refer to as to-dos. A to-do list simply is our daily goals. Does that help you?
I think that's wonderful. I think many people get stuck right in the beginning. So I think laying out something that they can really, look at and dissect and take step by step, I think will give them a little bit more ease in getting into that, where they may be anxious, thinking of, oh my goodness, what are my goals? So I think the way you broke that down is fabulous. I think that's wonderful. I would really help somebody just starting out.
I think Jerry's comment in the beginning with the idea that you approach beginning a business with mission and vision and purpose, that is essentially so critical, because that's where the goals come from, essentially. Why am I doing this? What am I going to? What is my vision? Where do I want to be in X amount of time, whether it's short term or long term? And then the purpose of it. What is the purpose of this particular business? Is it just to make money, or is there something else involved as well? The goals, when you set them, I always approach it from, are the goals realistic? Are they relevant? Are the goals that you set in tune with the mission and the vision that you're starting off with? That mindset that you begin with is so critical to establishing those goals. And then I'll just say one step further. If you're going to now try to implement these goals, then you have to identify your strengths. I think the individual entrepreneur, whether it's a startup or someone that's trying something new in a particular business, what are your strengths? What are your capabilities here? Just how prepared are you? What are your assets? And I'm not just talking capital assets and material assets. I'm talking about cognitive and mental, psychological aspects. Are you personally ready for this? Are you what is your position of strength? Are you a good communicator? Are you a detailed-oriented person? What are your managerial skills? And a lot of folks I've found that start out a business, they just don't, they're not in tune with their particular set of strengths. And it's been established 10 times over in the field of positive psychology that if you do operate from a position of strength, that will almost guarantee success. And certainly that if you don't achieve your goals within a specified period of time, you learn how to be resilient and learn from those experiences, and reevaluate your goals and set more realistic goals going forward. So I think my point is the mindset is so critical before you even start rolling down the pipe with your new business.
I agree.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Terry, but this is why we wanted to start the podcast series for new business persons with this business preparedness topic, and just sort of maybe even if a person is in the middle of doing a business and is a current business owner, to kind of put things maybe into perspective. When you are a business owner, things do get very overwhelming. And we do have different statistics, like even here on Long Island, of the quantity of people in businesses. We had this discussion yesterday that I think it was like over 80% of our businesses on Long Island are small, under 20 people businesses, a lot of solopreneurs. So we do get very overwhelmed as a business owner, but the reason business ownership is so important is because this way, you're kind of almost in control of your own destiny. When you are relying on an organization to employ you, it's a little bit different. I've been a business owner for 10 years now, and I would not want to go back to corporate. It's a better environment this way for some aspects, and it's harder for some aspects. And, we don't want to fail in a business. We want to be more prepared. And I think Jerry and Jim and Gina's comments so far are very valuable. What are you wanting to do? And becoming overwhelmed is not really an option. And Jerry's advice that we were just speaking on and breaking it down into monthly goals, yearly goals, daily goals really puts things into great perspective. So that's terrific, Jerry. Excellent, guys. So.
And I was just going to add, as far as what Jim said, that building on strengths is also the best way to operate. Most people focus on overcoming their weaknesses, but one of the easiest ways to overcome your weaknesses is to use outside resources. Now, of course, that would tie into budgeting, because you would need to budget funds to obtain those outside resources. But when you are utilizing the benefit of other people's experience and other people's expertise to overcome what you may be lacking in that area, then you are taking the best of both worlds and using your strengths for the areas that they can be most effectively utilized.
There is an entire field, and I mentioned it briefly a second ago, called positive psychology. And it's a really interesting area of psychology. I've taught several courses in it, and I've tried to apply it, and it has been applied many times to the world of business. And it's based on the concept of identifying your strengths, and you consider that, they would consider it like your own psychological capital. You are a major part of this business. What is your capital? What do you have to bring to this particular endeavor known as a business? And then they generally identify something called efficacy, and efficacy is believing in your own ability to get things done. Do you really truly believe that you can do this? So many people start off a business and they lack the confidence. They don't feel that they can do it, but I'm going to try it anyway, but I'm not so sure if I can do it, but I'll give it a shot. You start off with that mindset, you're already in trouble. And not only efficacy, but the sense of optimism. There's a real belief that you're going to get this done. It is going to work. I will do this, And then finally, resiliency, which is, the ability to bounce back from any adversity or failure or any kind of unexpected event that you aren't counting on, which could include, changes in the market, all of a sudden changes in competition. And you don't give up. Now, when you see these little crises that show up, sometimes major crises, sometimes minor crises, do you have the ability to identify what they are and use that efficacy, that confidence in yourself, and use that optimism to cope with the negative that will ultimately happen, And again, by the way, just so you know, too, it's totally free, and this is not a promotional thing. There is a website called AuthenticHappiness.com, and it comes out of Penn State University, and you can sign up easy enough, and you can put a username and a password, and you can take all different types of self-surveys, and they're really very good. There's one like work-life satisfaction survey. Did you think about that? Did you think how you're going to balance the effort to work and the time that it takes to get this business going with your family and with vacation and leisure and all that? Are you thinking about that carefully? I met someone not too long ago who bought a restaurant. And right off the bat, I'm thinking to myself, do you really know what you're getting into? Because, talk about a restaurant now, this guy is going to be working 7 days a week. And essentially that's what he did. He worked 7 days a week, roughly from 10 in the morning to around 3 o'clock the next morning. Which brings up a whole other issue when you start doing this. Do you have partners? Do you have, can you delegate? How do you choose the right people to work with you in that particular, in your particular line of work? So there's so many things that have to be considered before you even start rolling out the actual business plan, which obviously is essential for getting funding and any kind of capital support. But that mindset is so critical. Otherwise, you're not going to make it, past the first couple of months.
Absolutely. Well, Gina actually has been doing. She's a real estate broker, and that is also a independent business. What she puts in is what she gets out, and I'd like her to talk about that in a moment. But just for the point, and Jim, I don't know, since we just met a couple of days ago, if you had the opportunity to go on the Time to Play Foundation's website, the founding philosophy is you have to be happy, healthy, have money, work-life balance. And I appreciate what Penn State is working on with the queries, and that's very important. My goal is to create this hub of resources, and having a business is an opportunity. The reason, and this is something that Gina and I had talked about, and why this particular podcast has been developed, we just did a survey of our youth through the Comstock School District in Port Jefferson Station. 727 students independently completed a survey. And the least most important thing that they felt in the whole survey, again, it was called Reinvent Your Life, which is a program of the foundation, a trademark program. The least important skill that they thought was necessary to have a good quality of life is how to start a business. And if you put into perspective the decrease of opportunities for jobs, if you put in the perspective of the number of people who are unemployed and other situations for revenues and other things, how to start a business might be a viable option to some people. And you guys are 100,000% right. You have to have those partners potentially. You have to have people with strengths that could come on board and help. For a person to work from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week is not necessarily a good option. But I'd like Gina to talk about that a little bit because she's had her experience as well for many years, being a realtor. And, again, that is a type of a person's business. It's an option for somebody to be a business owner in that respect. So, Gina, do you have some thoughts on that and why it is important in our discussion for people to know that this is an option for them to be a business owner?
Yeah, I think it's very, very important. Like you said earlier, it's really what you put in. You do get out what you put in. So if you're not going to put in much thought and much goal setting and budget planning and energy and time and commitment, then you are going to lack on the other end. And the reverse is, correct as well. Whereas if you put in all that energy and dedication and thought and positive strengths and bringing out your positive strengths that we were speaking of earlier, that really will come through in your work. You will see it in your everyday life. You will see it in the people you meet, how you interact. It just makes you a better communicator in many aspects. And I think in my field particularly, you do need to have that sense of psychology. You do need to have that sense of community and learning to work with all different types of people in all different walks of life. And I think that you need to build on that. As far as being a business owner, I think it's very, very important for new people starting out to really have the basics. And I think that, the high school students that were surveyed felt that need. And I don't think necessarily that they know where to go to get that information. So with us doing this, I think it's a fabulous idea to be able to give people the opportunity to say, hey, you can start a business, you can do this, and this is how. And maybe really start with the basics, like the real nuts and bolts. Like if they had to do a budget, where would they start? What would the budget contain? What would they even look at? How would they know what to even budget for? So maybe somebody that is in that particular business, or Jerry that's an expert in putting together businesses and management and things like that, could break it down to the basic level so that, somebody starting out very fresh would know, well, what is a budget? How do I do a budget? What am I even looking at? Where does my money go? Where does my energy go? That's part of your budget too. So
Absolutely.
Well, Gina, those are extremely good points, and what you really touched on is one of the primary reasons that businesses do not succeed, because the individual who goes into a business, starts a business, the entrepreneur typically knows the specifics of that business or that industry. However, has been proven over the course of time, the business of that particular business, whether we're talking about manufacturing, we're talking about wholesaling, retailing, or services, are only 20-25% of the total. So that, for example, in regards to a budget, you need to have some knowledge of accounting in order to create a budget, because the questions that you ask certainly are understandable when you have no knowledge in that area as to how do you begin to how do you create a budget. This, again, requires some research. One of the questions I was going to ask that we haven't gotten to is, when you start a business for the entrepreneur, do you have an accountant and attorney in place? Because, again, both of those are two of the essential advisors that are necessary for any business. Even if the individual has knowledge in accounting, they're going to need somebody with the ability to see without being conflicted or prejudiced by what exists in the mind of that individual. As Jim mentioned, we're talking about a lot of psychology in here, and typically, since we do not see ourselves, we don't see what we do, we don't see what we don't do, having a pair of outside eyes is very, very helpful. So if the individual was planning to start the business, having an accountant or having somebody to assist them in the accounting area to establish that budget would probably be step two after preparing the business plan. And preparing the business plan, I mean, God knows there's more than adequate information at this point in time in cyberspace that can guide somebody for preparing a business plan, as simple or as complex as they want to make it.
I think when someone says, I want my own business, that does not mean that they have to do everything on their own. You can still have your own business, and you have your own, you have your own goals. But there's nothing wrong, and as you said, Jerry, it's absolutely critical. You develop that team. You need that support team that's going to help you. It's going to be that, like you said, the attorney. It could be if you're going to be hiring employees, do you understand labor law, what you can and cannot do? So you need advice. Maybe an HR expert, legal labor law attorney might be able to help you with that. Your accountant to monitor your own books. How about a banker? For getting access to capital and short-term loans and small business loans and things of that sort. You might even need assistance with marketing. Exactly how are you going to compete in the digital age? How are you going to do that? All these things are part of the entrepreneur's team. And the team doesn't have to be your employee. You can contract out with these folks in a consultant way. And, of course, as you were saying, too, you realize you have to budget for that, too. So you might have to budget for consulting and, expert advice as a necessary cost to running your business.
I agree with that. And also, somebody along the way, again, the time to play philosophy, happy, healthy, have money, work-life balance, right? So work-life balance could be whether you're working in a corporation or you own the corporation. But somebody a long time ago had said something that I always take with me, that, what is the value of your time? Like if you're out there and you're selling, like Gina, let's say, is showing a house that's $1 million, and she has a potential person to purchase that house. If she's in her office doing paperwork for, accounting or something, she's losing opportunity to make more than the small amount of money that it might be, like Jim is saying, to outsource, contract out, or freelance, have a freelance person to do some of these mundane tasks. as this is something that is to be considered. I think that's kind of an important thing. Like that person who goes to the restaurant from 10 a.m. to 3 a.m., maybe they could use somebody to help them with ordering or something else that they can eliminate some work-life balance issues, something to consider when you're getting it started.
And keep in mind what you're saying. It becomes an issue when you do enlist help to work directly for you. Okay, so you're going to have somebody do customer service, have somebody answer the phones, have somebody monitor certain things in your place of business. Do they share the same vision that you have? Do they have the same objectives and goals? Are they going to participate head over heels in your business the way you are going to do that? And that's where the business owner and the entrepreneur have to be able to translate his or her vision to his staff, so that they can carry on the mission when, you're right, they're out there networking and developing new customers, that the people minding the store, whether that's real or virtual, the people minding the store are being able to communicate that same enthusiasm when they contact them.
Understood, and appreciate that as well. So, Jerry, what else is on our list to make sure that we do cover our objectives of our call this day?
Well, we were talking about the question of how well you know the business, the product, the service that you plan to provide, how much experience do you have, how much money is required for the initial investment and the reinvestment in the coming years, and one of the key questions is what's going to be your source of income for the next 3 years, and we use the basis of 3 because most businesses do not survive for 3 years. That is historical information that has not changed over the course of time because, as has been mentioned in the call by Jim, that there are always going to be obstacles, there's always going to be roadblocks, there's always going to be setbacks. There is no such thing as an overnight success. It doesn't happen in this life. And starting a business and building a business is an extremely difficult situation, and the more planning that's done ahead of time, the more likely the individual is to succeed. So all these things need to be taken into account before beginning. This is part of the planning process.
And that's why we actually are doing this, because historically a business will not survive for the first 3 years. And Jerry knows me way too well now, history will repeat itself if we let it, so why do we continue to let it? And I don't think that should be a situation. I think that we should, overcome that. If we know that this is an issue, there's opportunity to make that change. So that's the point of this particular series, and how we as business owners can brainstorm and find best practices and things that we can share that could help somebody else. And Jim, who's at a academic institution, and his knowledge is tremendous to be able to help avoid that situation. Personally, what I did when I worked in an incredibly good corporate job, and I did transition out, although my husband hates me for it a little bit, but we have been, celebrated our 10th year in business. But it took me 6 months to transition. So we did glean a salary from our business always, but it took me time. So I transitioned out of my corporate job little by little. Then I asked for a little bit less hours, and then I did leave, and then I did, have a salary coming in once I left permanently from that position. But that is an option too. I mean, maybe you can't, just say, oh, okay, I'm not going to work tomorrow. I'm going to start my business tomorrow. And the pre-planning, which everybody is saying is so necessary to do get your team together, get your business plan, mission, vision, goal, extremely important. I have written numerous ones of those over the years for the places where I've worked. You have to kind of be clear as to what you are trying to achieve, so that's definitely something to take with you. but there is no reason that we can't survive as business owners. Everybody has an amazing strength. Everybody has amazing knowledge in some way or shape or form. And if you have a passion, there's got to be a way to make that into a business. There really has to be. And Jerry's been with me for a really long time. I want to reiterate the no overnight success thing. I think that that's really important to highlight. I guess we see things like there was a commercial some time back where the people, it was on the internet. I guess maybe the internet was kind of new, but something I always remember. But this organization put up their website, and there's a whole group of people sitting around the computer, and they got one order, and then they got another order, and they're cheering, and they're like, woo, and then they got another order, and like so many orders that they all looked at each other like, oh my goodness, how are we going to do this? That doesn't happen. I would love if it happened, but that doesn't happen. So it's really a lot of pounding the pavement. Is that correct, guys?
Yes. I mean, you hear about the overnight success, but you don't hear about all the overnights that went into that overnight success because, as I said, there is no such thing in this life.
Jim?
Agreed. It takes a lot of hard work and dedication, and you have to just keep plugging along. And like Jim said, there's definitely going to be fallbacks. There's definitely going to be drawbacks. Things are not going to happen in the way you plan them out, but you do have to get back up, get back out there, and keep trying and keep motivating yourself to keep going, and it will turn out to be positive.
And again, I still say that you operate from a position of strength. You identify what you're really good at. Don't operate from a position of weakness. And it'll boost your self-confidence, and it will really, I'm not going to say ensure success because we know there are so many variables that can affect that, but it'll give you absolutely the best opportunity and chance for success if you have that right mindset. And then, of course, being optimistic and setting your hopes high realistically, but also with that confidence that you are going to succeed. You think success, you will have a better chance of getting it.
Absolutely.
Yes, whether you believe you can or you cannot, you are going to be correct.
I agree. And one of the things that Jerry and I had talked about is, I think it was the Colonel Sanders, right? They slammed the door in his face 1,000 times when he went to get funding for his Kentucky Fried Chicken chain. Is that correct? Wasn't that he? And look at how that had turned out. He didn't listen. He kept going. He believed in what he was doing and his mission, vision, and purpose, and where he wanted to be. And you know what? Who's to say you can't? Just like Jerry is saying. So, Jerry, would you be able to just quickly summarize everything that we talked about in and then we'll close our podcast for this week. And we want to just, mention what's happening for the next one. So I'll pull that up while you're summarizing.
Well, I think it's very easy to summarize that really what we're talking about is step number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is planning. Planning and goal setting. Being prepared for what is ahead and envisioning what is going to be ahead based on what you want to make happen. Starting with the mission, starting with your vision, starting with your purpose for founding the entity, the enterprise, and then sitting down and determining where do you want to be at some point in the future, bringing that back to today and determining how you're going to get there step by step by step. Recognizing, as I said, that you're going to experience failure, you're going to experience defeat, you're going to experience rejection. It's part of the process. Macy failed 7 times before Macy's became an institution. I didn't know Colonel Sanders' story, but I certainly am not surprised to hear about that. Any of our successful people, if you read their background, you will see one failure after another in almost every case, because that's how we learn. We learn from failure. So be prepared to be rejected, be prepared to fail, be prepared to just continue keep on keeping on and keep on looking at what you're doing, keep on changing what you're doing, keep on obtaining advice as much as you can from other people, using other people's experience, using other people's knowledge, and learning from your own mistakes. I think that it really would be the best way I can summarize the initial steps to creating a new business.
My goal with this whole thing is really proactive prevention, perhaps, is the best way to summarize. And taking what Jerry's saying, taking what Jim's saying, taking what Gina's saying, and putting this into perspective. Maybe talking to a person who's a successful business owner. Don't go to the person that did fail. Or maybe you want to find out what they did and not do what they did. So there's ways of looking at things, but to be able to really achieve what you think is the best. I mean, there's so much opportunity out there. Realistically, everybody has an idea and everybody has a strength. Gina or Jim, do you have anything that you want to summarize? And then I'll just mention what next podcast is going to be.
Yeah, I think Jerry summed it up very well. I think it's a nice synopsis of the whole planning and goal setting piece. And my only final comment is once again to always be focused on your individual psychology, and that knowing what your limits are, what are your strengths. And you notice I didn't say until just now, noting your weaknesses, because I really don't think we should be. You make a note, maybe make a note of your weakness, but you then make a point to realize not to operate from those weaknesses. You just make a note, put it aside, but you operate from the position of strength.
Fabulous. And Gina, anything to add to close?
I think that's absolutely correct in so many aspects in both what Jim and Jerry is saying. And I think don't get overwhelmed in the very beginning stages. Take it step by step, take small steps, so that not to get overwhelmed by the entire process. Yes, you want to see the end in mind, but you don't want to get overwhelmed by all the things you need to do to get there. So if you take it day by day and step by step, you will make it, with the proper planning, of course.
Excellent. So next week, also Tuesday at noon, because hopefully people can take a lunch break and listen in and or communicate or call in too. There's a topic that we're going to be doing is salesperson first. If you're not willing to be a salesperson, nothing else matters. And if you, we're going to talk about that. And if you don't want to be the salesperson, how to find a person to salesperson for you. And so that's what we're going to be talking about next week. And I hope this was helpful for people. So, Jerry, you want to close it all out?
Well, as you said, Doreen, without clients or customers, there is no business. So that will be what we'll be touching on next week. But again, that also comes back to planning. That comes back to preparing. That comes back to determining ahead of time how you're going to accomplish what you envision. So we, as I said, start with the vision, but then we need to determine how we're going to make that vision a reality.
Fabulous. Well, thank you guys for all participating in our Empower Half Hour, summing up business preparedness. Please go to timetoplay.com or theenjoylifeproject.org. We are a 501c3 not-for-profit corporation with the mission and purpose to enrich the lives of others through programs, public awareness, outreach activities, events, and learning opportunities that further the concept of enjoying life. Collaboration equals success, and people helping people. And thank you guys so much for doing this. I appreciate it a lot.
Let me just add one point, Doreen, and that is the Long Island Advancement for Small Business, the LIASB, has a new entrepreneurs group that meets on the third Wednesday of each month. The meeting is from 6 to 8 p.m. The next one will be October 21st. Go to LIASB.com, click on Resources in the top menu bar, and then on the New Entrepreneur Group in the drop-down menu to complete the form to receive an email invitation.
That's a great resource, and I appreciate that. I hope if there's people that are not on Long Island, there is also something for them in their communities that they could physically attend. it's very important to be prepared, and it's very important to learn, because learning gives you power. So, and thank you guys. I appreciate it a lot. All right, have a great week, and we'll all be online again next week to do our business success half hour. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laurie.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.